I'll share my screen. Okay, so here we are. A few things, as I mentioned before, that I want to point out, remind everyone. I am opening up right this minute. As you can see, I'm opening up the discussion board, the team discussion board assignment that we did last week. You probably noticed that I gave you feedback. Now, I don't want you to feel like I'm being overly critical. What we do in these kinds of situations where we're developing a mission and vision as a team, which is normally how it's done, we go through several iterations. And what you want is that you want everybody to provide objective feedback as you go through these different versions of your mission and vision. And you would like to get different parties' perception of it as well. So if you develop this in a boardroom where you're just sitting around with a bunch of managers, your interpretation of your mission and vision might be a lot different than one of your employees, especially the customer contact employees. It might be different than how your customers interpret. And this should work for all of your stakeholders, not just for your managers, but also for the lower level employee and also for your customers. So it's all for all your stakeholders. So we've always said, the simpler the better, the shorter the better. So if you have any technical jargon that only someone in your own industry would understand, you want to try to eliminate that. You also want to keep your mission to one sentence and your vision to one sentence, which I think most everyone did. But you don't want to go the route of making the mission and vision more boring necessarily, but there's certain key elements we said you need to have. So you don't want your mission to be generic, So, and you noticed, and everybody can see this is a class discussion board. So I gave you some feedback and I offered some, and I think everybody did a good job, by the way. I offered some people, I said, the only thing I see that you might want to reconsider is this. And some of you maybe left out the geographic scope, or you left out an adequate product line description. You have to say, this is what we do. This is the products that we sell or the services that we have. You have to say that. You can't just say, we empower people to do wonderful things. Well, that could be applied to any organization, nonprofit or for profit, So I think the word empower is overused, but that's just my own opinion. You could argue about that as among your teammates, but I would take a look at it and try to make it unique. Try to communicate what you think differentiates your company over its competitors. And what is its basic product or service? And the geographic scope, again, can be one word. It could be regional, national, global, North America, that's two words, but North America, in the Americas, so that's real easy to add that in. And you can do it creatively, worldwide, the world over, there are different ways that you could say that. So most of these are going to be national companies, I believe, by and far. These are going to be national companies. Some of them are global or international. So do take a look at that and the feedback that I gave to you. I changed the new due date is this Sunday night. So let's take another stab. I think in most cases you can make at least, maybe it's just a tweak, you can make some improvement on it. And again, this is how we go through the mission and vision. We don't just in one day develop a mission and vision. That usually takes several weeks, and we sort of test it and get focus groups to find out if this is something that will work. Because again, it should be a mission and vision. We might review it every year, but it should be something that works for the next 3 to 5 years at least. So do take another look at that. That is our next team assignment. I think it'll be an easy team assignment, but get together. The other thing I want you to do is be sure to look at, and I'm going to pull it up now, your team assignments. One of the things I want to do is make sure that everybody on your team can meet. Here's the online class. So some of you, I don't really see. Some of you said, this is our team meeting time. Here's one Wednesday at 6 o'clock. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Let me know what your team meeting time, your mutually agreed on meeting time each week will be. And make sure that it's a 2 hour block of time because this week you probably won't need an hour, but in future weeks you will need more than an hour. So make sure you have a 2 hour block of time that everybody can meet. For some of you, it might be just on the weekends. For others, it might be just during the week that you want to meet, so y'all decide on a specific day and a specific time. And then that way, everybody on your team can block that off of their calendar and make sure that everyone knows to be there at that time. If you're like me, I have to put alarms on my cell phone because otherwise, you get really busy and you forget. So I put alarms so my phone lets me know when a meeting is coming up. Um, so y'all be sure to do that by this Sunday night. Write that down and make sure you have a mutually agreed on day and time for your weekly team meetings, and that will become especially important in the second half of this semester when you're working on two different team projects at a time. Okay, so what else do we have? Let's go back. Well, we're going to be working on this week. We'll be working on our second practice round. I'm going to go through and take a look at your first practice round in a minute. So we're going to work on our second practice round. The second practice round has a new set of decisions. We call it the new HR module. I'll show that to you in just a minute. There are only a few decisions we're making here. We'll talk about what the appropriate decisions might be for your own practice. You can play around with that and see, you can run the round more than one time to see how different decision entries might impact your balanced scorecard and your overall profitability. So again, I don't care how many times you play around. I don't care how many times you redo the round. I'm not counting that. I'm just looking at your ending balance scorecard score to make sure it's at the 50th percentile, and that's how you make a 100 on this assignment. Again, this assignment counts for 10% of your grade. So we'll go through that in just a minute. And every week we will have a weekly quiz. This week it'll be over Chapter 3 on analyzing the firm's external environment. Be sure to watch the videos that I have posted under this week's module. This is the week 4 module. We're in week 4 now, before you take the quiz. Next week we will have our first test. So for this week, you'll notice the week 4 quiz, you'll have to use the Respondus lockdown browser and webcam. Okay, so what is that? Well, I know you've used that probably in some of your other online classes. One thing to note about mine is I do look at the videos. We do use the webcam, not just the lockdown browser. And if your test is flagged, we get a notice when your test is flagged for any reason. What that's going to mean is that you'll need to either come to campus to retake a different exam, even if it's because of technical issues for whatever reasons, or number two, you will need to, at your own expense, take the exam with ProctorU. I know it's very strict, but I have that guideline for a reason. We've caught people cheating. This is an open book. This is not an open book. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. This is not an open book test. It's a closed book exam. The first test is a closed book exam. You will have an hour and 15 minutes like you would in class to take the test, but you will need to study for the exam. So we're not like testing whether or not how quickly you can look up the answers. You will need to know the material before you take the test. And that is something what the monitor will pick up on if you're not looking at the screen and paying attention to just taking the test. I've had students in the past who the lighting in the room so dark you can't see their face, or for whatever reason, the way that their laptop is positioned, you can't see their eyes, and you'll be flagged for that. So you have to see the full face with your eyes. And so that's something we're going to do next week. So as a practice, the week 4 quiz is going to use the Respondus Lockdown browser and webcam, so we can get some practice to make sure that you don't have any technical issues like an outdated browser or something like that. Because again, even if you run, even if it's a technical issue, you'll need to take a different makeup exam. It won't be the same exam if your exam is flagged. Do we have any questions about that before I continue? Okay,
So the
so
week,
sure, go
sorry,
ahead.
hi, this is Ken. The week 4
Hi.
quiz is closed book as well.
Well, I would practice with it being closed book, and the reason is that you will be flagged if it's not. I mean, I can go through and tell who's using their notes or not. Um, so if you use your book or use notes, then I'll send you an email saying you were flagged, and it appears that you're using notes as you're taking the quiz. So try to take it without the quiz this time, just this 1 week, just so we can get some practice doing it that way with the first test. Again, these quizzes, these weekly quizzes don't count for much of your grade. Each one is like 1% or less. So they're mainly for studying purposes to see what you do understand and what you need more help on. It helps us to know what questions to ask. So I would don't get too stressed out about the weekly quizzes. You're scoring the weekly quizzes. You will be able to use the weekly quizzes to study only in knowing which questions you missed. You won't be able to see the entire quiz. There's a reason for that. The reason is that I don't want you going through and memorizing the questions on the weekly quiz, because I won't use those questions again on the test. You'll have completely different questions on the test. And on top of that, it's not going to help you a whole lot to just go in there and memorize, the questions on the weekly quizzes. The test is not all multiple choice and true false. Almost half of it is also short answer and essay. The best way to study for the test, if you want to go ahead and get a head start on it, is to download the test study sheet, which is under this week's module. You'll find the test study sheet and be able to answer the questions on that, because I'm going to take the short answer and essay questions straight off of this sheet. I'm not going to change the wording at all. So if you can answer these questions, then you should do very well on the exam. Plus, these are the concepts that I really want you to know. All right. I've had students ask me, well, I noticed you didn't cover the entire chapter 10 or whatever chapter it might be. And I'll say, no, I didn't, but I covered the parts I thought were most important. Those are the parts that I think that you should remember, you should know, and those are the things that will be on the test. So I want you to know what I want you to know, and that's what's included on this test study sheet. Um, so do read over, and the way I would study, the way I've always studied that worked for me especially when I was an undergrad, was I would go through and ask myself questions, after reading a chapter. I would come up with my own set of questions and own set of answers based on what I thought the professor might ask, what I thought was one of the more important topics in the chapter. So that's what I did for you here. And you always get, as you know, just about every class, you're going to get what is this topic all about. So what is strategic management? And I know we all know the question to that. It is the allocation of the company's limited resources in a way that allows it to maximize its ability to meet its long-term objectives. It's resource allocation designed to allow the company to maximize its ability to meet its long-term objectives. It's long-term in its orientation, and we want to, as a manager, look at the resources we have available and apply them in a way so that we can increase our chance of long-term success. And that's what we're doing in the CAPSIM simulation. You have limited resources, financial resources being one of the big ones, but also production resources, human resources, R&D resources, all of that. We have to figure out what we can and can't do and apply those resources in a way that allows us to have the best long-term success. I was just talking with a graduate student who had done really well in the first 2 rounds, but tanked in the third round. And in going over what he did, they're like one round. The graduate students use a more complex simulation. They're one round ahead of you guys. And what he did was he was too conservative in his first two rounds in his investments and his resources. So, in applying his resources. So, what he did in the first two rounds affected his third round performance. And that's what will happen. It's more difficult for us to be successful in terms of increasing our profits in the first round. But if you are investing to grow in the first round, you should do a lot better than your competition by round three and especially by round four. So it's about long-term orientation. It's about applying your resources in a way that allows you the best chance at long-term success, right? So go through this and each one of these questions. We will review for it again next week when we meet online. Next week, we'll review for this exam. I'll try to get you ready for the exam. But my point is that we all need to study for it. It's not one that you can use your notes. It's a closed book test and it will be monitored. Um, so do take a look at that. And that's under the week 4 module. Okay. Any other questions about the test or upcoming due dates before we move on to the simulation? Okay, so let's see, I believe I have a video under the week 4 module. Um, that's the capstone practice round 2 video that you can watch if you missed something today. I will, of course, also post the video recording of today's online meeting like I always do. So, but you can watch this, go back and watch this, or you can watch the video recording of today's meeting if I go too fast. But let's go to the CAPSIM simulation. All right. And I'm going to sign in here. All right. Okay, so let me make sure that everybody has a company assignment here. All right. All right, you might have noticed that your number changed when I gave you a company assignment. That's fine. Every now and then I get someone who will say my number is no longer the original industry ID, and everybody will have their own unique number once I assign you a company. Um, so let's go into, I am going to take a look at how we did in the first round. And I can see that not everyone finished. Now, here is going to be my guess on that. I think some people probably uploaded decisions but didn't realize that you have to advance to round 2 to be able to see your results. So I will log on to one of the teams to see if that's what happened. Yep, indeed it did, because you see here the decisions have been uploaded, but we're still in competition round 1. All right. Don't let this word competition, fool you into thinking that you're not in the practice rounds. You are in the practice rounds. We call it competition round 1 because you're competing with 5 other computer generated teams. So you're competing, just not with student teams like we will when we start the team competition. This time it's with computer generated teams, which in a way is easier because the computer generated team kind of stay on a consistent path. You know, they develop a particular strategy and they stay on a consistent path. Once we deal with human teams, it's going to be more like the real world in that it will be more difficult to be able to project, to be able to forecast what the rest of the industry is going to do, because now we're dealing with people and not with computer generated teams who kind of stick with the same path. So people tend to be a little more creative, tend to be a little more spontaneous, and less predictable for that reason. So this is going to be a little bit easier than dealing with 5 other student teams in your industry. So here's what I'm going to do. If you're in this position, guys, if you're still finding yourself in your dashboard, if it still says competition round 1, you have to advance to the next round before you can see the results of round one. So I'm going to click on next round and then advance game to the next round. All right. Yes, advance my game. All right. And now when I go back to my dashboard, I see that I am in competition round two. And I see that there's an option for me to redo the round if I want, but I'm not going to redo the round. All right. I also see that it says I've already done it, but I'm sure yours is showing you haven't done it yet for most everybody, is there's an advanced HR module. So go ahead and do the tutorial, the advanced HR module tutorial before you start round two, just so you have a little bit of a familiarity. I will go over it today in the online meeting today, but it helps to go through this tutorial as well. And again, this one's not real complex. There are only a few decisions that are added in this new HR menu that you didn't have in round one. So we'll go over that in just a minute. But first of all, I'm going to go back and look at my reports. What report are we looking at? Well, we go to reports, we go to debrief reports, and there are several debrief reports that you can look at. The only one we're going to use for this class, though, is called the balanced scorecard. All right. So now I see that I made a 44 on my balanced scorecard. Is that good enough? I mean, 44 out of 82 points. Well, click on that score. It's a clickable. Click on the score, and you'll see down here your national percentile ranking. And right now, we're only at the 24th percentile. We want to be at the 50th percentile or higher. The 50th percentile is the national median. That means that 50% of the students who participate in the simulation score below you and 50% scored above you. So you want to be at the 50th percentile or higher. For round one, that normally means a score of about 49 or 50. That's not true for round two. For round two, you need a higher score to reach the national median, the 50th percentile. You need something like a 56 for round two, right? But click on that score, you can see your percentile ranking. So this is not where we want to be. So what we need to do now is look at the reports, and this time we're going to look at an industry report to see what went wrong. All right. So now we have room for improving. We want to increase our score, and I'm going to look to see what went wrong. Well, first of all, I can readily see that my return on sales, which is your net profit margin, is lower than the rest of the industry. So that's one thing to note, or my profit margin is lower. Let's see what else happened here. I can see I did make a profit, although it was low. All right. My production capacity utilization is not bad. We will talk more about this as we go along in the practice rounds. But generally, what this means is that your purple bar is your first shift capacity. In round one, it was about 800,000. What we want to do always is use at least this first shift capacity, but we would like to use more of it, and somewhere around 150% of our first shift, meaning we are using half of our second shift capacity as well. So remember, you have a first shift capacity of 800,000 units, but you can double that because you can run two shifts. We don't want to run our plant at 200% of first shift capacity because we'll wear out our employees and it per unit cost goes up. In that case, our turnover rate goes up, our employee productivity goes down. All right, so I can see that my plant utilization is actually 161%. I'm happy with that. You want it to be somewhere around 150 to 180%. So you can see that's where most of the computer generated teams are. I also can see that I ran out of inventory. How do I know that? Well, I have zero left. When you have zero left at the end of the year, zero ending inventory at the end of the year, it means you ran out of stock. Running out of stock is not good. And the reason why that's not good is that you're handing over these lost sales, your potential sales, to all of your other competitors. So the sales that you worked for through your marketing and promotion, through your R&D investments, all of that is going out the window because you're losing these sales that you potentially could have had and those sales are actually being given, spread out among your competitors. So we don't want that to happen. So we know, number one, we didn't produce enough. All right, we ran out of stock. Number two, couple of things here. One, one way, if we wanted this product to stay in the low tech segment, we don't need an MTBF quite this high. You can see the industry leader is at 19.8. All right. And also we're aging out. I mean, the perfect age, the ideal age is 3 years. At the end of the year, we're already at 4 years. So we need to make some changes. We might have overspent on our promotion. You can overspend on any of these investments. You can see the top seller has a promotional budget of 13 and a sales budget of 1,300. We ran out of stock in the high tech as well. We weren't as successful in the high tech. And, we lowered our price. That's the other thing is we really didn't have to lower our price that much. Price is very important in the low tech segment, but you might want to wait a year or two before you lower your price that much. The reason being, everybody at this point only has one product. They have the one product they're trying to sell to two different segments. So in terms of changing your price for Able, you're lowering your profit margin unnecessarily when you can see the industry as a whole, they're taking some price decreases, but not as much as we did here. So we want to change that in round one. And we also want to, again, we're spending a lot on promotion. We don't have to spend quite as much on promotion. If you look at your competition, maybe we spend a little bit more on the sales budget, but not quite as much on promotion budget. So we need to produce more so we don't run out of stock, and we need to make some strategic changes in our product. All right, so I'm going to go back now and let's go to my dashboard. Now that I know what happened, I'm going to redo the round. All right, let's update. Okay, so now I'm back in round one. Let's go to my round one decisions. Here we go. And let's start out with the R&D. And I can see what we're doing here is we're moving Able from the intersection straight into low tech. Now, if you do that, that's fine. But if you do that, you're going to completely eliminate any demand in the high tech here. So my recommendation is, rather than do that, maybe add another product that maybe Able will be a low tech product. But for right now, let's add another product. And maybe the smarter idea is to move Able into the high tech segment because it's pretty close to the high tech segment as it was. All right. So we are going to change this altogether, and let's try to keep it in the intersection so that we can continue the sales of our high tech customers as well for at least one more round. And I'm going to say my performance is going to be about a 6.2, and the size is going to be about a 14.0. Let's take the MTBF down a bit, recalculate that. All right, and I see that my new product will be available in April of this upcoming year, and I did make it a little better. I just tweaked it. And then I'm also going to, let's just call this Awesome. Awesome. I'll introduce a new product that will be strictly a low tech. Now, the sweet spot for low tech's right there in the middle. All right. So we're going to say this one's going to be, let's see, 5.2, size of, let's see, 14.5. And we're going to make this product a low tech. In terms of reliability is not quite as important for the low tech. So we'll have two products that we're investing in. Now, this new product won't be available until year after next, but I do have to go ahead and build production line equipment and hire the employees for this new. You can see Awesome is right here. It's more towards the middle of this low tech segment bubble. And then I have Able, which eventually, after this upcoming year, I'm going to move Able into the high tech. So it'll be cutting edge at high tech. My Able will be, and my Awesome will be my strictly low tech. That's not a bad strategy at all. And so when I go back to my marketing, I won't be able to sell my new Austin product for a year because it's going to be an R&D for over a year. I am going to cut back on my promotion budget a little bit. I will increase my price now that I know what my competitors are doing. I have that crystal ball. I was able to see it when I advanced to the next round. And I'm going to take a look at what this does to my benchmark prediction. All right. Now, again, this benchmark prediction is not a forecast. It's useless for forecasting. I have to repeat that again because it has the word prediction in it, which is confusing. I wish they called this column what it is. It is a what if analysis. So if you change your price or want to experiment with promotion or sales budget changes, it gives you an idea of how much it might affect your demand. All right. Now I'm going to look at my production analysis to see what I sold last year in round zero, and everybody sold 1,200, but I know that I'm going to grow another 10% in my low tech and twice that much, 20% in my high tech. So just my best guesstimate would be 10% of this would be 120. And then if you consider my high tech as well, I'm going to guess, I think probably conservatively that I will sell 1,400. I do think that's a conservative number, but I think I'll sell 1,400 next year. We want to err on the conservative side. You will always need to enter your forecast and remember that this is not a forecast. This is just a what if analysis, and it will almost always be wrong. It could be way higher. Right. In this case, it's lower than it should be. So my forecast is based on what I did last year. And then I also consider the industry growth rate, and I consider any marketing changes that I made or R&D changes that I made. Some of it will be a bit of a guesstimate, but we'll continue to talk about how to develop good forecasts in the next coming weeks. All right, so we're going to go to production and HR. I have a new product now. Anytime you introduce a new product, you have to build the production in the same round that you invest in R&D. People forget that. You have to build the production because it takes an entire year for the production line to be ready. So I'm going to add 500,000 production line to this because Awesome is a low-tech product, so I need a fairly big production line. My Able will eventually be my high-tech product, so I am not going to add this round any production to it. In fact, I have a little bit of money left. You know, I can't spend more than $6,948,000. So I have a little bit more left. Let's see if I can produce a 600,000 unit production line. Yes, it's going to let me do that. If my unit sales forecast is 1,400 for my existing product Able, and I only have 87,000, that's a small percentage of total sales that I have available in my ending inventory. I'm probably going to err on the optimistic side here, and I'm going to build more than what I actually need. I'm going to go all the way up to, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go all the way up to 1,500. Okay, why is it doing that? Don't know. I might be, hold on, let me say what I have here. Someone else is on here, I think, on the same account. That might be what's going on. So let me go back and see. Okay. So it's getting confused if I'm using the student's account and that student's using the same account again. It's confusing. So let me reload. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to, sorry guys, I'm going to have to get out and get back in. That one was lost. So what I'm going to do is go back in with one of my on-campus students. The main thing is you want to, what we talked about today is we want to, before we replay a round, we want to make sure that we are reviewing. Let me log into a team here. We want to make sure that you are reviewing your industry report And I want to review the fast track. That's the same report you can get in the web decision menu. And look at the report to see where you can make improvements, So this you can see this team has already done that and they've already improved it. They have a good return on sales, so things are looking fine. But let me just go back in and find a team that has not already done, this one has not already done round two. So we're going to go into round two, and let me show you the new HR module. Okay. So if we're looking at this, you can see this unit sales forecast is probably low. This student has not entered any decisions yet for their second round. So what I would do is go back. Let's look at my R&D. I have a new product that's going to be introduced in March. My new product is called ACE. It's a low-tech product. Then I have ABLE. That's an intersection product. All right. My ABLE product is getting pretty old, so I need to tweak it. I'm going to tweak it by lowering the MTBF a little bit. I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller. I'm going to make the performance a little bit faster. So we want to make sure we keep this intersection product. We want to keep it because for the high-tech customers, they want a product that's as close to zero as possible, meaning that the high-tech products you have to R&D every round. And since this ABLE product is an intersection product, meaning it's being sold to low-tech and high-tech, we want it to be especially younger than 4 years, but really more like closer to 2 years, which is what it will be once we do all of the R&D on it. And so my marketing, you can see this is the benchmark prediction. What did we sell last year? Let's look at our reports. I'm going to look at just for the ABLE because that's all we sold last year. We sold $12.93 last year. And again, we expect that to grow by 10% in the low tech and 20% in the high tech. So I'm going to say just conservatively that we're going to sell 1,400 there. Our ACE is going to be available for most of the year. And again, the ACE is a low-tech product, so we want to make sure that we are price competitive, all right? So let's go back to, let's set a minimum price here. Let's go 32.95. All right, it won't let me go back until I do that. So let's look at ACE. Again, we're here. That's where ACE is. It's right there. It's not really in the middle of the bubble, but it's, towards the top of it, which means it's a lower quality product, and that's fine in the low tech. But our main advantage will be our price. And you can see that it actually looks like about like almost $3, $2.50 less to produce than Alex. So we can pass those cost savings through our price difference here. So we have one product that's 35, one that's, let's say, 32.95 to begin with. We will spend some money promoting it. It's a brand new product. We're going to increase our sales budget a little bit for our existing product. We're going to keep our product here, ABLE, in the intersection at $34.99. I like that idea. Let's recalculate. And you can see that the benchmark prediction for ACE went up. This is a new product. The new products are always tricky to try to guesstimate their potential demand, but this product's not going to be available for the entire year. So, and it is a low tech. Low tech is a big segment. And when you look at the reports for the low tech segment, you will see that, even the least popular brand for the low tech segment sold 740. So I'm going to say conservatively that I will sell 750 of this product, even though it's not available for the entire year. It's available in March. So having said that, let's go to our production and HR. Now, here's the problem. we only have, you can see we have a small production line of 300. So we're going to have to build more production to be able to sell 700, 750. So we don't have enough production capacity anyway. Even if we ran this at 200% of first shift capacity, which is running two full shifts, the most that we'll be able to produce is 600. So I'm going to go back to my marketing page now, not understanding that, and increase my price to $33.95. All right. Let's just make it $33.40. All right. I'm going to go with $33.35 on that one. All right. And we're going to go with 600 because we know now that that's the max we can produce. So that is real. I feel like a realistic forecast because we didn't have enough production capacity. I didn't realize that when I was doing the forecast. For the Able product, if 1400 is our forecast, again, we don't want to run out of stock. So I'm going to go with producing 1500 so we don't run out of stock. We don't have a large ending inventory on hand. So I'm going to produce a little bit more than I think that we need for now. I'm also going to increase my automation for the ACE. Let's see if we have enough money for that. And my automation for the Able, let's go up to 4.0 for the Able. That's adding robotics to your product line, to your production line, and that's going to help you out significantly in the future, saving money in the future. All right, so we have mainly two new decisions to make. One is recruiting and one is training. If you click on the I, they give you more information about the point of diminishing returns, and you'll see that you already spend $1,000 per worker to recruit people who are the quality you feel like would do a good job at your company. You can increase that all the way to 5,000. Anything over that, you're throwing out the window. Since we have mainly a low tech and a best value product, the intersection product, I'm going to go somewhere in the middle with that one because we're not dealing with high tech, high quality products. The higher the quality of the product, the higher the quality and experience of your employees. Just remember that. For your training hours, the same thing. We can go up to 80 hours, but it's expensive because you have to hire replacement workers while your full-time workers are in training. So again, we're going to go somewhere in the middle with that one as well. I'm going to recalculate. And I see that this is reducing my turnover rate. All right. And I can also see that it's reducing the amount of overtime that I'm going to have to repay by this recruitment and training schedule. So that should save me money, not as much this round, but will save me in the future. All right. So now the important last decision is finance. And again, guys, we want to make sure the main thing you want to look at first is your ending cash balance. What do we want to leave in there? Well, the rule of thumb is to leave at least 5, maybe up to 10% of your projected revenues. And right now, our projected sales or projected revenues are 64 million. So we'd like that to be somewhere around $6 million. That's 10%. 6.4 million would be 10%. Just so that we know that our forecast won't be 100% accurate, so we have to buffer against an inaccurate forecast. And our long-term debt really is not a big part of our overall balance sheet when we look at our the pie chart here. As long as this long-term debt is below 50%, you're okay to continue borrowing more money. So let's go all the way up to maybe $4 million here. All right. And at $4 million, I'm going to recalculate, and that gives me a big enough buffer, sort of like my checking account, so I won't run out of money during the year. I'm going to check my pro forma balance scorecard, and I see that it's 58. That should be more than the 50th percentile. I'm going to click on File, Update Official Decisions, and save this. All right. And then exit out of it. Okay. And then go back to, you can see, go back to my dashboard. I'm in competition round 2. In order to see your score, you have to advance to the next round. Don't forget to do that. And you will be at the beginning, of round 3. And then you can go in again and look at your reports. Here's your balanced scorecard report. Okay. And you can see that it was in fact 58. And so when you look at the breakdown, just click on this number. And this is the 69th percentile, which is above the 50th percentile. That's what we're shooting for. Okay, guys, I've got to run to my next meeting. Any quick questions before we end today? Any quick questions before we end today?
When will this recording be out online?
Okay, I know I went really fast. I'm going to try to have it posted before I have an MBA class tonight. So I'll try to have it posted before my MBA class tonight. I see there might be a question in the chat. Does the new product that we introduced have to be? No, there's so many different strategies that could be winning strategies. I want you to experiment and to try different things to see what works for you. We will experiment. We'll do different strategies as we go through these 4 practice rounds so you can see what happens. And that way, once you start your team competition round, you'll have a good idea of what you think would be a winning strategy for your team. But there's not one way to do it. There's not one way to win the simulation, just so you know that. So do experiment, play the round more than once and see what works and see what doesn't work, okay? All right, any other questions? All right, thank you guys again for meeting with me a little bit early this week. And again, I'll try to have this recording posted on the calendar like I normally do by tonight. Okay, bye-bye. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.